Good morning, sports fans. John Russell here, psychic paranormal investigator and published author. And today I want to talk a little bit about the UFO disclosure report that dropped several weeks ago from our government. I apologize for not having made any videos in a while. I've been extremely busy with my podcasts and radio interviews with my clients. And I'm writing on my third book and even have plans for fourth and fifth books down the road. So things have been a little hectic, but here I am. I wanted to talk about the UFO report because a lot of people were very disappointed in the UFO report. And I think the main reason for that is it didn't come out and say it's aliens. And that's understandable. So we're all wanting to know exactly what it is our government does know and what they've kept hiding from us for all of these years. But look, there are some interesting points here in the disclosure. Let me cover those with you now. I think there's some boom go the dynamite moments here too. First off, it's a preliminary assessment, and that means that there's more coming. Okay, this is introductory or preparatory, a prelude to something else. So in other words, much more to come. We also have to realize that we got the unclassified version, which was something like 9 pages, and about 3 or 4 of those pages actually had any content. But if you look closely in those 3 or 4 pages, there is some content that's really pretty telling. First off, the government finally admits that the UFOs are a threat, and they make several statements regarding the threat in here. I'll quote from page 2 now, from the purpose and scope of the report. Quote unquote, is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomena, UFOs, and the progress the Department of Defense Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, the UAPTF, has made in understanding this threat. Okay, now also, and then I go down to page 3. UFOs, clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Finally, on page 6, the UAPTF has 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. So, back in the day, I wrote to the government, to the military, and I said, this is decades ago, excuse me, and in my letter I said, if there are UFOs entering our airspace that present a threat to national security, I want to know about it. What's the government doing about it? I'm a U.S. citizen. I want to be protected by my government. What's going on? The standard response back then was to mail you a copy of the Blue Book report and a form letter which said that they have investigated some sightings, and if there is anything to any of it, basically, what they said was that nothing posed any type of a threat to national security. Now, all of a sudden, here everything is a threat, and a threat to national security, and a threat to safety of flight issues, and so on and so forth. So they've done a 180-degree there. I thought that was pretty interesting to see. Another thing is, all of the alphabet agencies were involved in providing input for the report. FBI, CIA, NSA, a whole bunch of agencies. I don't even know what the initials mean, but all of the alphabet agencies were involved in providing input for this report. Which, okay, well, big deal. Well, it is a big deal. What this tells me is that this has been a widespread scope of intelligence gathering project from our government from the get-go if all the alphabet agencies are involved. It also tells me something else. The government says they can't get clear pictures of these craft, or they can't do this, or they can't do that, which is also BS. And the reason I know that, being all of the alphabet agencies being involved, is because a long time ago I saw a documentary on TV, and one of the former heads of the CIA said, in talking about the SR-71 Blackbird, and for younger viewers who may not know what that is, or for people who don't keep up with the military or aerospace or whatever, the SR-71 Blackbird was our top secret, state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line spy aircraft. It flew in subspace, and it flew at speeds that nothing on the planet could catch it. No missiles, no rockets, no planes, nothing. So the former head of the CIA said at this point, in discussing the Blackbird, he said, and the Blackbird carried cameras, and its sole purpose was to take pictures of the entire planet as it looped the planet. And these were high-res pictures, okay? So the former head of the CIA said that the Blackbird, flying in subspace at speed, could fly over a putting green, and if you had two golf balls there spaced a foot or two apart, and you developed the photograph from the Blackbird as it flew over, you could clearly read which golf ball was a Titleist and which one was a McGregor. And he said, now that's decades old technology, imagine what we can do now. So if all the alphabet agencies are involved in this, and that old technology could produce that, bullshit. You know that we have got some clear pictures of the UFOs up close and personal. There is scuttlebutt. I follow this diligently, and there are some people in the know that have connections. Excuse me. People in the know that have connections, and they have stated that we have clear, sharp photographs of these craft 50 feet away from our fighter aircraft. Okay? So screw the little furry, grainy, fuzzy videos and pictures and everything else. It's out there. And look, there are citizens that have taken clear pictures of UFOs. Okay, so anyways, interesting that all the alphabet agencies were involved, and thus my presumption that we have much more intelligence, much more input, especially visually, than we acknowledge. Excuse me. Going back to page 2 of the report, guess what? Allowing for expected glitches from various sensors, they nonetheless admit that various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments. So that's pretty good admission. But here comes a really boom goes the dynamite thing. Ready? For years there's been debate, even among those in the UFO community, as to whether the UFOs were physical objects, whether we imagined them and brought them into being by some kind of metaphysical nonsense, or if they were interdimensional or transdimensional or this dimensional or that dimensional or whatever hooey nonsense. Here we go, page 3. Quote unquote. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observation. So our government has finally admitted, yes, these are physical objects. They are here. We're picking them up on multiple sensors, and our pilots are seeing them, and other witnesses are seeing them. We have visual observation of these craft. UAP, again, clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Another boom goes the dynamite moment. And then on page 3, a call for more money. We're going to have to get to the bottom of this, we're going to have more funding. Another bullshit moment. Our government is wallowing in money. Our government burns money like, I don't know what. It's disgusting. You know that we have black budgets. That's acknowledged. That's real. You know that they have the money they need to do what they want to, when they want to, if they'll do it. All right, here we go. Page 4. The UAPTF focused on reports that involved UAP, UFOs, largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators. Woohoo! Visual sightings by trained people, military aviators, and that were collected from systems we considered to be reliable. Now, they also finally acknowledge on page 4 of the report the socio-cultural stigmas attached to the reportings of UAPs. And like a buddy of mine said, oh, you mean the ones that they created? Yes, the socio-cultural stigma that the government and the military created was, don't talk about this, you'll lose your pilot's license. Don't talk about this, you'll be fired. Don't talk about this, you'll be demoted. Don't talk about this, you'll be kicked out of the military. Don't talk about this, you'll be court-martialed. So they created that socio-cultural stigma, and now they're acknowledging that it exists. And they've gone so flippantly far as to say, we hope now that this will encourage our pilots and other people to come and feel like they can report these phenomenon without harassment or without ridicule and so on and so forth. Can you see my eyes rolling in my head behind my glasses? You probably can't because of the glare, but anyways. Here was something I thought was really interesting on page 5, quote unquote. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency, RF, energy associated with UAP sightings. Now, what the fuck does that mean? Radio frequency energy comes from a number of sources, radios, microwaves, so on and so forth, and apparently all kinds of military applications, but they drop it there and then doesn't tell us what it means. Were UAPs communicating with pilots? Attempting to communicate with pilots? Were UAPs communicating with each other? Was it some other type of RF energy? What type of RF energy? What were they picking up? What were they doing with it? What was manifesting or happening because of it? Hell if we know. Now, for people to say, well, it's ours, we've reverse engineered this, or our military and our science is just so good that we've come up with this. You haven't been listening to the people in the military and in Congress and behind the scenes and in science that have said, this is not our technology. We have no ways and means of doing this. We can't do this, okay? And then, quote unquote, again from page 5, some UAP observations could be attributable to developments and classified programs by U.S. entities. Here's my emphasis. We were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. Okay? See, people say, well, it could be China, it could be Russia, they got a jump on us. If China or Russia got this kind of a jump on us, our spies have failed miserably, our government has failed miserably, our military has failed miserably. Come on, people. And if this was Russia's, let me tell you about Russia. I have a friend who's a Ukrainian national, and Russia has slapped Ukraine around like a rag doll. So a buddy of mine, going back to growing up in West Texas, a buddy of mine once said about Putin that if Putin were starving to death, literally, if he was friggin' starving to death, and he had $5 to his name to buy food, he would starve to death and give that $5 toward the destruction of the United States. I asked my buddy in the Ukraine what he thought about that statement, and he said, I think that's 100% accurate. So if Putin had this technology, all of us would be in school learning Russian, and we would all be making an annual pilgrimage to Moscow to hail Putin. Come on, people. If China had this, we'd all be speaking Chinese. Look, these craft do the same things to other countries that they do to us. They buzz their ships. They turn off their missiles and so on and so forth like they have ours. So, people, it's not ours. And if you listen to people like Lou Elizondo, for example, they will tell you over and over in their interviews, this is not human technology. This is not our technology. We do not have this capability. No country on the planet has this capability. So listen to what these people in the know are telling you. So not ours, not theirs, and what does that leave? That leaves extraterrestrial technology. And again, if you listen to the people, verified, vetted, reliable people that are coming out now and talking about this, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, many, many others, they're all but saying, hey folks, it's E.T., E.T.'s here. They all but say that. They repeat over and over and over, this is not human technology. This is not our technology. We are not capable of this technology. So, there you go. That's where we're at right now. The government's admitted they're real. They won't admit to us what they know. And then in the classified report that was submitted to Congress, to the president, and so on and so forth, which was, I think, something like 70 to 90 pages, something like that. Those in the know that things have trickled down, filtered down from, said that there were some really juicy things in there, but that hasn't come out yet. And of course, we know there are, We know our government has to know what's going on. We know they have to have a handle on this thing. It's been going on forever and a day, and they have to know why they won't tell us. That's the question that's up in the air. And there's a lot of theories there as to why they won't, but all of that's speculation, all of that's guesswork. What I do know is it's time that they reveal the truth to us. Now, people say, okay, if the government suddenly acknowledges that ETs are real, that they've been visiting the Earth all these years, that opens up the case to this abduction scenarios being acknowledged as being real by the government, so on and so forth. People say there would be mass panic, people would lose their religion, world governments would grind to a halt, our monetary system would end. Bullshit. No, it wouldn't. For one thing, we're better than that. We're more resilient than that. There would be some panic, but there wouldn't be widespread panic. I'll tell you exactly what there would be. There would be some people that haven't been to church in a long time that would run to church. There'd be some people in the church that would go, I knew this religion was bullshit, and leave the church. There would be some people seeking to form alliances with the aliens for profit, some seeking to form alliances against the aliens. Being from West Texas, myself, I can tell you there'd be some good old boys loading up the guns going, let's go get us some aliens. There would be a wide variety of responses. I think one of them among the Christian community, if the aliens landed on the White House lawn, they'd be out there the next day circling the craft, holding hands and praying for Jesus to save the souls of the aliens. So all of these things are realistic scenarios, but I think widespread panic and the collapse of the world order, I don't think there's absolutely any truth at all to that. What we would have to do, we don't know these creatures, entities, people, whatever they are. We don't know their methods. We don't know their means. We don't know their motivations. We don't know their ideologies. We don't know their philosophies. We don't know their religions. What we have to do when that time comes, that we have that face-to-face public acknowledgement and we get to meet with them, visit them, see them for the first time on a widespread basis. Caution. Don't believe everything that you're told right off the bat. How do you know if it's true or not? You meet somebody on the street, you don't take them into your home and say, hey, well, come home with me, spend the night, and we'll talk. No, you get to know that person. Are they reliable? Are they dangerous? Are they a liar? Are they this? Are they that? So we have to extrapolate that. And just because someone has a superior intelligence, if they do, or a superior technological capability, which obviously they do, that doesn't mean that they're moral. That doesn't mean that they're ethical. That doesn't mean that they're compassionate. As a matter of fact, it seems to be the opposite way when you look at this. Many reputable people have tied abductions to ETs, to aliens, the UFOs. Now, if you come down and you grab someone against their will and experiment on them, it's not moral. It's not moral, not ethical, not reasonable. There's no morality there. So that casts a bunch of light on everything that's going on. Another thing that happens is, think about this. Now, I'm not talking about all the people that, I've met the Space Brothers and they're pink and they're blue and they're dressed in like these transparent outfits like it looks like Indian Hindu gods and bullshit. Don't give me that ignorant crap. Look, I'm talking about the reality of things here. And the reality is, in all the physical confrontations, which are now deemed a threat and are now deemed a danger and so on and so forth, and we have the alien abduction reports, think about this also. And I was watching an interview with a MUFON field investigator, the Mutual UFO Network, one of their field investigators who said, where's the report among all of these reports where a person's lost in the woods at night and a UFO comes over, shines down a beam of light, and with that beam of light, guides that person out of the woods to safety? Where's that report? We don't have it. And we don't. We have a lot of alien abductions. We have a lot of UFO near misses. We have a lot of harassment of our ships, our aircraft carriers, our battleships, our planes, against our pilots. We have a lot of reports of cattle mutilation tied to UFOs. We have our nuclear missiles turned on and off at will. That's well documented. But we don't have that, oh gosh, look, this person's lost in the woods, let's lead them out to safety. We don't have that. So right now, what we seem to be able to determine realistically and logically is that these beings are either very disinterested, indifferent, or possibly even hostile, or at least semi-hostile. So at this stage of the game, we don't know. We know they're real. We know they're out there. We know that they're most likely 99% of the time not terrestrial, which leaves only the extraterrestrial hypothesis. And so now we have to say, okay, what do we do with that? Well, here's my suggestion. Don't go, well, doggone, there it is. Now we wait and see. No, don't do that. Write or call your congressman, just like we used to in the old days when we wanted action, and demand to know the truth. Demand real disclosure. Okay? Excuse me. And if enough of us will do that, excuse me, the old saying, there's power in numbers, is still true. If 1,000,000 of us would write or phone our congressman in the White House 1 month, that would get their attention, and then it would fade away. If 1,000,000, 1.5 million of us the next month do it again, well, okay, they're still coming. Maybe they'll go away. If 2 million of us in the third month do it again and keep doing it, then something's got to break. Something's got to happen. Somebody's got to release something. Somebody's got to say, we got to give these people something. The natives are getting restless out there, and that's what we need to do. Disclosure is in our hands. Let's push for it. Let's don't leave it to the government. Let's don't leave it to the military. Let's push for it. Let's get it accomplished. Let's find out what's going on. Let's get the government to acknowledge and the military to acknowledge what's going on and to give us some of this reality that they're sharing behind the scenes. Now, if anything I've said seems odd to you, you can find reliable, well-researched evidence out there behind this with very, very little effort. And of course, the National Institute of National Defense, if you go to their website, you can get your own copy of the report there. Plus, I made it available on Facebook and other things. So there's my thought on the report. There's my thought on the ETs and what's going on. And yes, I have had several UFO experiences, daylight encounters with multiple witnesses. And I can guarantee you that the way these things perform, there's nothing in our technology, even as advanced as we are, as sophisticated as we are, that can do what these things can do. So there it is. Let's get to work on it. Let's push for some real, truthful, meaty disclosure that really does help us out. Appreciate you listening. Appreciate you thinking about this. My prayer is that great blessings fall on you today, that your health is good, your finances are good, your life goes well. That's my prayer for you. And I will be talking to you again soon. I appreciate you tuning in and listening. I'm John Russell, psychic, paranormal investigator, and author, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.